Hey there, Toonami faithful. I'm Blackenfist, and I think this is going to be one of my last Toonami videos because Toonami came back, it's on, and I'm going to finally put these thoughts to rest. First up, it's good to see Toonami back. It's always good, and I got to say that they used, of course, Tom 3 just like they did in the April Fools, and I thought that was a good idea. But it's kind of like a newer, like they did like new animations, and they kind of changed Tom 3 a bit up, and they also changed his ship, the Absolution, so he kind of looks shinier than he did before. So I kind of, it's almost like Tom 3.5 or something. So yeah, that was good. And it started, as I thought before, it started at 12, and it's gonna end at, and it ended at 6. So what are my thoughts? So I like that Tom's back. New lines from Steve Blum, of course, loved it. Sarah wasn't there. Sarah's Tom's computer, and unfortunately she wasn't there. It would have been great if she was there, but she's not there. I can welcome the absence for now, but she's not there. The shows, it was Bleach, Dead Man Wonderland, Carven Sins, I believe, then Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood, Ghost in the Shell, then Cowboy Bebop. I like it that they brought out 2 new shows. I watched it, and if you cannot support all of Toonami, I really strongly suggest you support the 2 new shows that they're airing, and that to me is already a good sign for Toonami, that they're already having new shows. That right out of the gate they're having new shows. But what are the problems? Well, I think the problem is that Toonami needs its, I don't know if this is just a matter of time or if it's the nature of the time slot, but Toonami seems to be suffering from a lack of identity, because most people are just saying this is Adult Swim. And I don't know if Toonami's going to grow into its identity or if it's just never going to get out of that Adult Swim shadow, which is bad. I think, I'll be honest with you guys, I don't like the time slot. I just don't like it. I'll still support it, but I'll be honest that that's one of the things I don't like. I don't like the time slot. I don't like it that it's an Adult Swim time slot. That just, it suffers from Toonami having its own identity, as I said before. However, things that are helping in that department is stuff, new stuff like Carven Sins or Dead Man Wonderland. That's good. But the ultimate question is, will Toonami survive? And if it will survive, can it survive enough to grant Toonami its own spot on the channel? Its own spot separate from Adult Swim, its own identity. That's ultimately what we want, and the only way that will happen is if this Toonami is successful. Because if this Toonami is successful enough, we'll get what we want, and maybe they'll push back Adult Swim, or the Toonami was just going to have its own spot on the Cartoon Network channel, which would be great if that happened. Will it ultimately survive? I think at this format it will. It will survive for at least a year. After a year of this Toonami, I would like to see some changes, or at least close to a year. I would like to see some changes, but nevertheless, I think this Toonami can survive. With new content, of course. Those 2 new shows, I think, are the only potential that Toonami needs to catapult itself even higher than what it is now and gain its own identity separate from Adult Swim. I know that a bunch of people have been saying it's just Adult Swim with Toonami skin. Like, I can understand that complaint, but with Toonami bringing out 2 new shows, I don't think so, and I think eventually Toonami will grow into its own unique identity, and I think it'll help separate from Adult Swim, and then maybe, if we support it, they'll give Toonami its own spot on TV, but there's a lot of room for changes on that lineup. Like, for instance, they could definitely change Ghost in the Shell or Cowboy Bebop, shows that have been rerun from hell. Yeah, they're still popular, they're still getting good views, but I think that in the long term, yeah, they can show Cowboy Bebop. Maybe they can rerun the whole series. Maybe rerun the whole series of Cowboy Bebop. But then once they rerun Cowboy Bebop, I think that they're gonna. It'd be the best possible option would be for it to get even another new show. So once the newer shows, I think will definitely. And also, it's not just for the sake of having new shows. It's also that um, a lot of the shows on a Toonami right now, excuse me, a lot of the shows on Toonami right now are Adult Swim anime shows, and that doesn't help Toonami's case. I think Toonami, in the end, I mean, obviously they're not going to get rid of Bleach, and I don't think they're going to get rid of Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, but I do think that, okay, we can keep those. I can compensate for those, but I think the two others, Ghost in the Shell and Cowboy Bebop, eventually, and I mean eventually, like in a couple months, have to go for something new, or you know what, even something old. I think that if they replace Toonami with, let's say they replace Ghost in the Shell with Fairy Tail and the other one with Rurouni Kenshin, even an old Toonami show I think is better than Adult Swim show, because even an old Toonami show gives Toonami its own original flavor and its own original identity. So that's what I say. Will Toonami survive? I think it will. I think that the time slot is the biggest hurdle that Toonami has right now, because the time slot is an Adult Swim time slot, and let's face it, the time slot's very late, and that's gonna be hard for it to get views. But that's it, guys. I don't know what else I can say about Toonami. As far as right now, I'm going to be supporting it. If anything comes up, I'll make another video, but those are my final thoughts on Toonami coming back. It's great to see it back. It's great that the fans got what they wanted. But now the fans have to stick with it. They have to be, they have to be Toonami faithful, and that's the real challenge. I think it was an awesome challenge to bring it back. I think it's an even greater one to help Toonami get its own identity and its own spot on Cartoon Network. But anyway, for the last time in a long time, I think, this is Blackenfist. Stay gold.